Hi, SpongeX here. In today's day and age, I can't help but be disappointed at the state of video games. It's nothing but gritty, repetitive shooting games, sport games, reality simulators, and worst of all, endless clones of microtransaction traps that keep pestering you for ridiculous amounts of money to progress, games that are begging for little kids to get on their parents' phones and just blindly buy stuff from their parents' account without realizing what they're doing, and giving parents no chance of getting the refunds for their kids accidentally, raising their bills like hell. So, yeah, too many games focus strictly on online multiplayer, which is also a real annoyance. I honestly prefer single-player or couch co-op multiplayer with friends. I hate games that only let you progress if you have an online connection, and usually online connections act up on my end. Despite how I pay for the highest speed internet my area can offer, it's still not enough. And so, not to mention all the depressing stories of online games being unplayable once their servers and consoles lose support, which always happens. It gives me more of a reason to not give a crap whenever a new game gets announced and they say it's going to be an online exclusive, or it's going to have the best features locked strictly behind online modes. So, yep, I just am so sick of this. I'm tired of games feeling like they aren't permanent anymore. I love being able to buy a game and having the luxury that I can always go back to it no matter how many years pass, and I can go back to it and replay it as much as I want. I hate how so many games feel like they're only going to be temporary. They're disposable. They want you to pay like over $70 and sometimes even hundreds of dollars on one game that's going to end up being obsolete within a few years. Especially with how so many game companies get shut down nowadays. It's just getting worse and worse with no signs of it getting any better. Because of today's greedy business practices and lack of understanding of what traditional video gamers actually want. Because of today's greedy business practices and lack of understanding of what traditional video gamers actually want in video games, it led me to wanting to make a new series where I can brainstorm video game ideas and share what I'd love to see in hopes that longtime video game fans can agree or understand the lack of creativity or freedom both gamers and game developers are giving nowadays. Admittedly, I know nothing about the development of video games, but I do at least understand that it's not what it used to be, and many game developers are very unhappy with its current state. Many of their ideas keep getting shut down in favor of rehashing another Call of Duty game, or many developers get bought out and shut down due to poor management. Like, did you hear about how there was a big, open-world Donkey Kong game that was being planned for Switch, and it was shut down by Activision? Because Activision was actually working on it, and Nintendo was really interested in this game, but Activision shut it down after, new management, and they didn't want to make it, and said they wanted to focus more on Call of Duty. And this is, a decision that's affected more than just Donkey Kong. It's affected also Crash Bandicoot and Spyro. Like how, the developers want to make more games of those, and Activision shut it down because it's not Call of Duty. And so, you hear other stories from Microsoft and other game developers. It's just depressing. It makes you long for back in the 90s and 2000s when there was a variety of games. All of them were very creative, or at least most of them. So if you've seen any videos from my past, you'd know that I was a huge fan of Rare's more colorful past, like Banjo-Kazooie, Conker, Cameo, and Viva Pinata. Franchises like these were games I loved and was willing to buy more of, but the problem is that Microsoft does nothing with these neglected franchises, despite the beggings and demandings for new ones for over 20 years. I still see people across the web this very day longing for a true Conker 2, or a Banjo-Kazooie sequel that actually continues the story of Banjo-Tooie with the same gameplay and all of that, and yeah, it's really depressing. So this first idea for a game I'd like to share is one I came up with while playing Mario Party 3 online with my friend Steph on Nintendo Switch's online expansion. So we were playing the minigame Snowball Summit, where the players have to roll around giant snowballs and push others off the cliff. I told Steph, if this were a Conker game, what the characters would actually be rolling around? And Steph laughed and thought that would be hilarious. It suddenly had me realize, dang it, they should make a Mario Party clone starring Conker, strictly for adults. Since then, I've been brainstorming ideas for this concept, and it wasn't until now where I finally decided to make a script and a video about this. So, Mario Party is a fun, long-going series combining the classic board game formula with chaotic mini-games that usually involve the players getting hurt in crazy cartoony ways. Now imagine this, but it's strictly for adults. So in Conker's version of Mario Party, there would be swearing, blood, dismemberment, very crude humor, innuendos, and more. I can't think of a single video game that copied Mario Party with an adult edge throughout, and I can't help but think that we need one. I think, a lot of adults love party games. There's a lot of fun little, computer games that adults can play, like What the Dub. Why aren't there any, raunchy adult Mario Party clones? I feel like Conker would be the perfect subject for that. So I still wish to see a Conker 2 someday, and heck, I'd even settle for an official release of the canceled family game 12 Tales Conker 64. Otherwise, I would still love to see this party spin-off happen regardless. So the title I have in mind for this idea is Conker Party King. Aside from being a Mario Party clone, I still want it to have its own identity. I think it should also bring back the multiplayer modes from Conker's Bad Fur Day, since they were harshly excluded in the Xbox remake Live and Reloaded. So not only should they remake them, but they should adjust them to work as actual mini-games. A party game with a deathmatch hybrid sounds so crazy that it could work, and not only that, but it should have a story mode full of cutscenes that pay homage to Conker's Wild Bad Fur Day and serves as an alternate sequel. So this could also have online functionality, so it won't be the main focus, but for those who want to go online and play with others, they can. See, that's the kind of online games I like. Games like Mario Kart or Super Smash Bros., where the main game is built off just single-player or multiplayer. But if you want to go online, that's an option. So that way, if the online servers ever shut down, people can still find enjoyment within the game's single-player or local multiplayer. You can't get that with games that are built strictly to run off servers or online multiplayer. So the story would open up with Conker waking up wondering where he is. Suddenly, he realizes that he's trapped in a cage surrounded with nothing but darkness. As Conker rattles the bars and demands to be let out, he hears a familiar voice that he never thought he'd hear again. Conker, is that you? Conker turns around and is in shock as he sees his lost love, Barry. Conker is in disbelief, and he stumbles towards her slowly.
But Barry? Is that really you? This can't be. You're dead. I saw you get shot. You got sucked into space.
Barry assures Conker that it's really her. Conker hugs her with tears in his eyes, and he asks,
"What's going on? Where are we?"
Barry reveals to Conker that they're in hell. Conker exclaims,
"Hell? What the hell are we doing in hell? I didn't die. I just went to bed in my castle and..."
And then Barry interrupts and says, I wouldn't call my lousy house a castle, per se. Conker shakes his head and says,
"No, you don't understand. After you died, the Panther King was killed by an alien out of nowhere. Apparently, a crazy weasel scientist put it in him or something. I have no idea. The writers of that game left a lot of crap out. Long story short, everyone made me their new king. And I now rule all of the land and all of its riches. But that doesn't matter, because it made me realize that all I really care about is..."
Suddenly, Conker gets interrupted by another familiar voice, one that Conker dreaded hearing. A nails-on-a-chalkboard voice screeched out to him from a neighboring cell to the right.
"King Conker, is that you?"
Conker looks over and sees Rodent, still wearing his military outfit. Conker shakes his head in annoyance and says,
"Oh, great. I would say just kill me now, but that wouldn't help considering where I'm at."
Rodent exclaims,
"Oh, this is great, Mr. Mouse. Our king has come to rescue us."
Marvin the Mouse is revealed to be in Rodent's cell. He yawns and says, "Marvelous! Has he brought any more cheese with him?" Conker mutters,
"Can this day get any worse?"
Conker hears an angry roar in a neighboring cage.
"Silence! I am trying to sleep!"
Conker stares in anger.
"Long time no see, Fairy Panther King."
The Panther King angrily shouts,
"I'm not a fairy!"
Conker says,
"If it weren't for these jail cells, I'd march over there and give you hell after what you did to Barry."
The Panther King says,
"Hey, I didn't kill her."
And he points to Don Weezo, who happened to be sharing his cell.
"Oh, way to throw me under the bus, boss,"
said Don. Conker and Barry get even more furious upon seeing Don. Conker says,
"After what you two did, it's not surprising to see you here."
The Panther King shouts,
"Silence! How dare you speak to your king that way?"
Conker scoffs and says,
"King? Some king you are. Everyone hated you. They rejoiced when you died. They made me their king. I'll admit I'm not perfect, but I'm a better king than you ever were."
Another familiar voice comes into play as Conker hears psychotic laughter. Professor Von Cripplespeck shows up and says,
"Oh, spare me, Squirrel. The crown you wear is such a lie. You don't deserve that crown, for it was I who slayed the king. That's right, everyone. Your so-called king is a fraud. You all thought he defeated the Panther King? Ha! He didn't even get a boss fight against him. I was the one who planted the egg containing my alien Heinrich in the king's milk. I am your real king.
One of the professor's teddy soldiers approaches him and backs him up. Conker says,
Gee, it sounds more to me like your alien did all the killing, so shouldn't your pet be the real king? Oh, by the way, I chopped his head off and he bled like a bitch.
The professor throws a huge tantrum and gets censored like crazy as his teddy tries holding him back. Suddenly, a bunch of spotlights turn on and all the cage cells open up, revealing a game show set. A big sign lights up reading, "What the hell?" as Conker repeats what the sign says. Greg the Grim Reaper appears and shouts,
"Welcome, imps and demons, to Hell's favorite game show."
The crowd all cheers the show's title, "What the hell?" Conker says,
What is this, a game show? Isn't this kind of thing more fitting for the ending of a Banjo-Kazooie game?
Greg reveals further how the show works.
We're going to be doing things different this season. You see, work has been real slow in the underworld lately, ever since video games got rid of life systems. Less feet roaming around the streets down here, I'm afraid. That's why your great ruler, the devil himself, took who he considers the most despicable people on Earth and dragged them down here for your entertainment. In this show, we'll travel around the surface world, transforming it into a series of giant board maps, as we force the competitors to run around and collect the most cash. But it won't be as easy as that, for these board maps are booby-trapped and will torture and humiliate anyone who lands on their space. Not to worry, though, for no matter how bloody or dismembered you get, I'll be able to bring you back into play and drop you back to the start. But you will lose money in the process, and prices may vary depending on how brutal the death was. After each competitor's turn, we will play a mini-game where our competitors will have to fight for their lives for survival. Each board map's goal requirements will vary. Some will rely on collecting the most money before a number of turns, some will be as simple as the first to reach the goal, and so on. Whoever wins through all the board maps gets to meet the devil himself and will be granted one wish. So get out there, competitors, and say it with me, folks!
As the crowd cheers, "Give 'em hell!" Conker turns to Barry and says,
Well, this is just great. I finally get reunited with you and we're forced to basically kill each other.
Barry says, "Well, at least we can't die." Conker responds,
Yeah, but it still sounds painful. Wait a minute. Greg said he'd give the winner a wish. You know what that means? I can get us out of here. If I win, I can wish us to go back home and you and I can rule as king and queen.
Barry says that sounds great, but not unless I get the wish first. Conker then responds,
Wait, what? That's not what you'd wish for? But why? We'd have everything. We'd have each other. We'd have everything we'd want. What more would you want?
Barry chuckles and says, "You'll have to let me win and find out." She reaches out her hand and says, "Well, good luck, and may the best one win." Conker sighs and shakes her hand and repeats,
May the best one win.
Greg then approaches the competitors and opens a portal to the game's main hub, being a hellish clone of the Cock and Plucker bar from Conker's Bad Fur Day.
Okay, welcome to the Pricked Poker, the Devil's Bar. Before each game, you are welcome to relax here and enjoy our many features. Enjoy it while you can, because it's only a matter of time before you little pricks get dragged back into the show.
The portal sucks everyone in as Greg laughs maniacally. The main title of the game shows up and we're dropped into the main menu, very similar to the main menu from the original game. So the first mode in the game would be called Rush and Roulette. This will be the main story mode where we progress through different board maps with different characters, seeing their stories unfold, but I'll get more on that later. The second mode is What the Hell mode. This will be for basic multiplayer, single player, and online board play without the story moments, along with giving players the options to edit the game's rules, like how long the game will last and such. The third mode is a basic minigame mode where you can replay individual minigames, and upon beating the story modes, this is also where you can watch the characters' cutscenes and endings. Also, I think it would be fair to mention that instead of forcing players to have to go through the game each time with each player, after beating the game once, it can give you the option to go to a shop mode and buy the alternate endings and cutscenes. So I think that would be fair enough. So you can either go through the games with each character normally and unlock them for free, or you can earn some in-game currency to just buy them. So just ease of access for different players, giving them different options to progress through the game's content. So the fourth mode is the multiplayer mode from Conker's Bad Fur Day, featuring remade multiplayer modes from the first game, but with the inclusion of new maps, characters, and weapons to choose from. along with some new modes entirely that I'll get more on later when I talk about some of the mini games. The fifth area is a store where we can use our in-game currency to unlock extra board maps, characters, weapons, and costumes for the characters. The sixth area is the restroom, and that would be kind of like your options menu, along with having, it would have a feature where you can change the character's outfits. And so throughout the game, you can buy outfits at the shop. And so here we can customize Conker into outfits from the first game, including his Matrix outfit, War outfit, and his caveman hat, along with various other outfits for the other characters as well. There could even be an outfit for each character that could be like one of the most expensive items in the game. It would be called the Gone Wild outfit, where the characters are basically naked, but they have pixels or blurs that are censoring them throughout. So, yeah, there's one way to spruce up the party. So let's go further into the gameplay of Rush and Roulette mode. So each board map can vary on different gameplay goals. The most common will be running around on the board and collecting the most money before a 30-turn limit. Unlike Mario Party, where the main goal is to collect 20 or more coins to exchange for stars, there is no exchange necessary to come out on top in Conker. Just collect the most cash and you win. There is a number of ways to earn cash and lose cash. Some could be as simple as landing on a space to gain or lose cash. Others can be simply by running across cash that randomly spawns on the board maps, along with winning mini games. And of course, the cash you win by the end of the game's total can be added to your account, so you can use it to exchange in the shops to get more content. So the game can be a gamble, where even if you have the most cash, sometimes you might want to invest in the money to buy other items to help defend your position, or buy other items, services, or traps to sabotage and attack your competitors. Every time a player gets hurt on the board map, they lose HP. So that's one thing that will make this different than a regular Mario Party game. You actually have health. So based on the 6 pieces of chocolate health bar from Conker's Bad Fur Day, so when all your pieces of chocolate are lost, your character will die and they'll get respawned back to the beginning of the map. And he'll charge you a fee, but if you have no money to pay, he'll force you to skip a turn. So let's call this rule set the normal rules. Unlike Mario Party's dice block rules, this game will have you move around with a roulette wheel that spins. Pressing the A button will stop the spinner and let us move between a range of 1 to 10 spaces. And of course, there will be items that can range the wheel by either having it be restricted or have it double or multiply. So, unlike Mario Party, this game can give you the option to have the characters automatically run to the spaces, or you can have the option to even manually control them yourselves. And the characters will move very similarly to how Conker controlled in Conker's Bad Fur Day. You can even press the A button to jump around if you want to. Of course, it will limit your movement with invisible walls to prevent players from cheating and going off the map, or going in directions they aren't allowed to. And if a player takes too long to move their character, frankly, the pitchfork will appear and poke the character, which automatically moves them to their designated space. So, other rules can change the gameplay, though. Some board maps might have a simple goal to reach before the game ends. For instance, a level set in Count Batula's Manor will have 3 keys scattered throughout, and the players will have to fight to get all the 3 keys back to the exit. So whoever has the most money before the 3rd key gets brought back is the winner. The player who succeeds in bringing back a key will be rewarded with a big cash bonus, but even that, the cash bonus itself won't guarantee their victory. I think this rule set should be called Get and Get Out. Another example could be boss maps, like one in the Great Mighty Pooh's Lair, where the goal is to land on spaces to throw toilet paper in the Pooh's mouth until the plug needed to flush him appears. So this rule set could be simply boss maps, or boss rules. And finally, there's battle boards, where the players get a set of 3 lives. Just like in the other modes, you still have a health meter, but when all HP is lost, you lose a life. So the last player standing wins. On top of that, the board map will have plenty of weapons and items spawning around, more than the actual board maps, which can be used defensively or offensively. For instance, gaining a tank will not only gain you defense for a number of turns, but it can allow you to shoot over oncoming players or even run over players upon the dice rolls. And so a homing rocket launcher, for example, could also allow you to attack any player on the board, no matter how far away they are. The spaces on each board can be as follows. Green numbered spaces are similar to the blue spaces from Mario Party, in which they reward you with cash. These spaces can vary, like some will have like $1, $5, $10, $50, or $100 on them, and obviously you'll get the same amount that matches the number on the space. Fire Imp spaces are basically bad event triggered spaces, which cause us to lose health and cash. And for instance, landing on one by a wasp will cause Wayne and the Wankas to appear and attack you with their stingers. So each map will have different fire imp spaces leading to different brutal and comical punishments with unique animations. Some of these spaces will resemble the context-sensitive spaces from Conker's Bad Fur Day, being a giant B button. These will cause a light bulb to appear over a player's head and trigger a quick mini-game where we have to press B to trigger the event. And then, for instance, in a board map like Windy, the context-sensitive space on one of the areas would have the player pull out a slingshot, and we have to shoot dung beetles that come flying towards us. And if you win, you get a cash bonus. If you lose or get hit, you lose a health bar and you lose some cash. Greg spaces will have Greg's face on them. These black and white spaces will kind of be like the Bowser spaces from Mario Party, where he spins a roulette wheel. However, instead of being nothing but bad things, they can also have a chance of a good thing happening. So these are more random chance spaces. These can lead to gaining or losing cash, regaining health, being swapped around with other players, getting sent back to the start, etc. Finally, there's the deathmatch spaces. Black spaces with Greg's scythe on it. These will trigger a deathmatch mode or a shortened version of one of the mini games or multiplayer modes from Conker's Bad Fur Day, including the death matches, lava surfing races, and tank matches. Across the boards, we will find crude little shacks run by Birdie the Scarecrow, where he'll basically be our shopkeeper and he'll sell us random items to help us throughout the game. The main playable characters will be Conker, Barry, Rodent, Marvin, Professor Von Cripplespeck, a Teddy Soldier, the Panther King, and Don Weasel. However, more characters could be unlocked in the store, like a Caveman, the Squirrel General, the Teddy's General, Weasel Guards, and for completing the game story as any character, you can unlock Greg the Grim Reaper as a playable character. Each character can even be used in any of the multiplayer modes, including Raptor. With that being said though, Fangy the Raptor can only be playable in Raptor mode, along with certain mini-games that allow you to ride a Raptor. Otherwise, Fangy won't be a main playable character in the main board maps or mini-games. Across most minigames, each character controls very similarly to Conker as he played in Conker's Bad Fur Day. Each character will have a basic weapon attack. Instead of pressing the B button to use it though, I think it'd be more comfortable to have it be the X button. So Conker uses a frying pan like before, Barry will use a rolling pin, the Panther King swipes with his paw, Don uses a baseball bat, Rodent jabs with a rifle, Marvin swings a giant piece of cheese, Teddy uses a bayonet, Professor has a boxing glove shoot out of his chair, and Caveman uses a bone, Weasel Guards use their spears, and Greg swings a scythe. And speaking of which, I think the Professor would be a really funny character to see playable because he's constantly bound to a floating chair and he has no legs, and so he'd have a lot of inventions that would appear throughout certain minigames to help him get through. So if there's like a minigame where a character has to pick up something, he'll have like robotic arms grow out of his chair. And so yeah, I think he would be a really fun character to play as. Now that was admittedly tough. I was debating on whether he should have been a playable character or if he should have been like a stage hazard, kind of like the Bowser spaces, but I thought, nah, that'd work better with Greg the Grim Reaper. And even then though, I still think Greg would make for a fun hidden character. So I want him to be both part of the game's main story, and then have it where he's also playable in the game. And so you're probably wondering, well, if you're playing as Greg, then what happens to the version of Greg that's on the board maps then? Well, the answer is simple. He could simply be swapped out he could easily be swapped out with the devil after that. So each character also gets a hover ability by double tapping the A button and holding it on the second jump. So Conker will still have his funny helicoptery tail thingy. Barry's hair will spin like Dixie Kongs. Panther King's robe lets him glide. Don Weasel shoots pistols at the ground that shoots him upward. Rodent and Marvin also spin their tails. Professor uses thrusters. Teddy uses a parachute. The Caveman hovers on a hoverboard. Weasel Guard rapidly spin their spears. And Greg the Grim Reaper spins his scythe. Most of the board maps will be based on past locations from Conker's Bad Fur Day, including Windy, Barn Boys, Bat Tower, Boiler Room, Sopranos, Rock Solid, Bugga's Arena, Count Batula's Manor, It's War, and Conker/Panther King's Castle. And the final level would be called the Devil's Playground. It's basically a giant torture chamber in hell. Wendy's would be a normal map with multiple directions to choose from. So unlike Mario Party, some of these maps will allow players to go in any direction. So instead of constantly going in like a clockwork direction, some maps will let you go like right or left, and even after you've already chosen a direction, you can choose to rotate it within the next turn. So giving players multiple ways of getting around these maps, especially since a lot of these maps aren't really made to go around entirely with 360 degrees. For instance, like if you went all the way up to the windmill, it would lead to a dead end. So with reasons like that, it should give you a reason to be able to turn around into the opposite direction if you've gone too far and stuff like that, or if you need to turn around and go in a different direction. Especially with a game where the money will be spawning in various directions. So sometimes like a cash prize could spawn at the top of the windmill. So you have to question, do I want to go up the windmill and get the cash in that direction, or do I want to turn right or left and get the cash in that direction? So it just leads to many different possibilities. Some of these decisions can lead to good results, others can lead to bad results. That's just how these games work. So of course you'd also have various paths, just like in the original game, where like one path will lead you to the queen bee, where the other will lead you to the wasp nest. So like I said, the money will spawn across different parts of the map. And so hazards could include like the wasps, the dung beetles, the worms, and Mr. Barrel deciding to go for a ride as he rolls down the windmill. Players can even adventure around Pooh Mountain if they choose to. Just watch out for rolling poo balls. The barn level will be another normal map, with hazards including hopping blocks, tickly bees, evil haystacks, Bugger Lugs the bull, and Frankie the pitchfork. And at random, the Haybot may appear. Make sure to stay away from him as he appears. The map will also allow us to run in and out of the barn for shortcuts. Bat Tower will be a get and go level. We start off at the bottom of the tower. The first to reach the top wins. However, many pesky bats will attack and send us further towards the bottom. So try and get some items to help fight them off throughout. It can be tough to decide whether you want to waste your items on approaching competitors or save them for defending yourself against the bats. The boiler room is a boss map. The goal is to avoid landing on spaces that allow the boiler to attack us, while also avoiding fire imps roaming around the board. Land on specific spaces to attack the boiler until he's defeated. I already described the Sopranos map earlier, so I don't have much more to say about it. Just watch out for random poo balls that the Great Mighty Pooh will throw. Some may land on you and hurt you, while others can land on different spaces and blocking them off, forcing players to take different routes to get around the board. Rock Solid is a basic map filled with rhythm minigames. Just avoid bumping into the pissed off Rockmen and Bouncer. So obviously this would be a really fun map because you got like the awesome music of Rock Solid playing in the background off all the disco lights. And so Bugga's Arena is a boss arena where each player rides around on a raptor, and we have to avoid landing on spaces where Bugga the Nut can attack us. And we have to try landing on spaces where we can attack him to immobilize him for a certain number of turns. So various cavemen gladiators will be roaming around the board as well, and we want to avoid them as well. If we run past them during a dice roll, we can have our raptors eat them. But more will keep spawning throughout the map, so we're not safe if just one of them gets eaten. More of them will keep coming back. And if you're in a tight spot, you can try landing on a space where Jugga will come in, nurse us to health, and send us to a safer space. Count Batula's Manor is a get and go level. Aside from collecting 3 keys to get out of the mansion, we also have to avoid zombies, along with Batula's bats who will try dropping us into Batula's grinder. Occasionally, Count Batula can also emerge. He can fly around in his bat form, and if he approaches us, he'll obviously suck our blood, and that will cause a lot of harm. So It's War is a battle map, where we start off on the beach as the teddies start attacking us. So try landing on spaces that will have us hiding behind the hedgehogs to avoid the teddy's line of fire, which happens every 3 rounds. In between those 3 rounds, they'll start reloading, and once they're reloaded, they'll fire again and attack anyone who's not protected by cover. So once past the beach, we're allowed to go inside the teddy's base. We can pick up as many weapons we find along the way to fight off incoming teddies and our competitors. Watch out for the experiment, which may randomly spawn the further we go. The further you get inside the teddy's base, the greater the cash rewards are, but the deadlier the board gets. And of course, if you die, you're sent all the way back to the beginning at the beach. The castle level is a battle map. Unlike other levels, this one starts off with characters warped in different rooms of the castle, making things less predictable. Some players may start off in the throne room, while others may start off at the castle entrance or the bank vault, for example. Many weasel guards will attack us throughout, and occasionally Heinrich will break loose and start hunting the players down. The Devil's Playground will be another battle map with many forms of torture like Iron Maidens, flame and spike pits, and even humiliation torture traps. They'll just be scattered throughout, and Greg will even spawn after a set number of turns, so make sure to avoid him or he'll one-hit KO us and send us back to the beginning. Some of the items we can purchase or get in the game include beer bottles, so we can either use it on ourselves or send it to another competitor and force them to drink it. Drinking the beer allows the players to restrict the roulette wheel by half, and it will force the player to get hungover within the next turn, in which they're forced to skip their next turn. So this item can either be used to sabotage enemies if you don't want them to go too much further, or maybe you're afraid of getting too high of a number during a certain event where you don't want to go near a certain space within a certain turn. And so you can use it on yourself to try risking yourself you can try getting yourself a very low number so you don't have to risk going far enough to where you get inflicted by an oncoming threat or something. And so it can be used very strategically both ways. Coffee is an item that allows players to double their roulette spins. King-size candy bars can give players a second temporary set of health. So candy bars will regain your health meter. Pieces of chocolate will regain just 1 health. Titanium laminate armor allows players to wear rodents' little protective body armor, and it can protect them from 1 attack. Ammo crates can extend the use of any weapon you buy or collect on the board. Mine bombs allow you to hide and bury mines on certain spaces, which if a player steps on it, it'll blow up on them, one-hit KOing them and sending them back to the beginning, and you also get to steal their money in the process. All the weapons from the multiplayer modes from the original Conker's Bad Fur Day will appear on these multiple boards. Each will vary on stats and how much damage they can inflict, along with how many spaces they can reach. Projectile weapons can reach foes from 1 to many spaces away. Some weapons will just stun enemies, while other weapons like swords can be used as close combat weapons, where they'll trigger as you pass an enemy or approach an enemy. Some weapons will even one-hit kill opponents, sending them back to the start and stealing their money. We can also find weasel thieves in certain parts of levels, and we can hire them to steal from other players. So I'd want this game to feel less rigged than Mario Party, where Mario Party has a lot of events that can cause us to lose all of our cash or swap all of our cash or stars with other players. So that's always frustrating, because it feels like you're doing so well, then at last minute you lose everything just because of 1 space. So I want it to feel rewarding for those who are doing a good job throughout, but still giving players a fair chance to compete without screwing over the one who's in the lead. I just want the game to feel more fair for all players. Players still need to earn their victories by winning mini games and avoiding bad luck. It needs a good mix of luck and skill instead of dumb luck like Mario Party feels most of the time. I also don't want any minigames that feel like picking straws, like everyone's most hated minigame from Mario Party 2, Bowser's Big Blast. I want some minigames to feel like they take luck to win, but I want some of them to also feel like they take skill to win. You'll have to know how to avoid obstacles and have good timing in order to really get around. The minigames could mostly take ideas and segments from Bad Fur Day, but revise them to work as multiplayer games, along with taking inspiration from various Mario Party minigames and giving them a Conker coat of paint. So here are some examples for minigames I came up with. One of them is called Feck Off Crows. It's a 4-player minigame where each player is turned into a scarecrow, and we can only move around by hopping slowly by pressing the A button. Pesky crows will start attacking the garden as we hop around to avoid the crows. The last scarecrow standing before the timer ends wins the game. Gargoyle Foil, similar to Sneak and Snore from Mario Party 2. It's a split-screen game of chicken where players have to sneak up on a sleeping gargoyle and smack it with their weapon before the timer runs out. You have to stop moving before the gargoyle wakes up or he will swipe you off the bridge and you'll be sent back to the other end of the bridge. The first one to whack their gargoyle before the time runs out wins. Bombing Blunder, a 2 versus 2 minigame. Each team of 2 is trapped in a cave with a boulder blocking the entrance on the other side. One player has a bomb and they need to carry it to the other end of the level to blow up the boulder and get out. However, the cave is infested with fire imps who want to ignite the bomb. It's up to the second player to pee on the imps and extinguish them, unless you're Barry, the Professor, or a Teddy, in which they get a squirt gun. Windmill Wind, a 4-player minigame, a side-scrolling level where each player needs to run up the winding windmill path while avoiding worms and Mr. Barrel constantly rolling down towards us. The first to the top wins. Hive Heist, a 2 versus 2 minigame, based on the Hive rescue missions from Conker's Bad Fur Day. One player carries a hive to bring back to the queen bee, while the second player sits inside the hive and uses its turrets to shoot incoming wasps. They can also shoot the other players to stun them and make them drop their hive. The first team to bring their hive back to the queen bee wins. Dung Nabbit, a 4-player minigame. A simple arcade shooting game. Each character gets a slingshot and has to shoot an onslaught of dung beetles. Each dung beetle will have a different color, which are worth different points. The one with the highest score wins. Whirlpoo, 4-player. Set in the whirlpool at the bottom of the Pooh Mountain at the entrance to the Bat Tower. The players will be swimming around and avoiding getting sucked into the whirlpool, while also avoiding the spiked imps that are swimming around, along with giant poo balls falling from above. The last one standing before the timer runs out wins. Bowling for Poop, 4-player. A bowling minigame where we bowl over dung beetles with poo balls. We control the characters with the left stick, aim with the D-pad, and we use the right stick to charge and release the ball by holding down the right stick and flicking it upwards to release the ball. The speed and power of the ball depends on the timing and force of the stick pulls. The ball gets bigger as we roll it down the poo lane, so make sure to aim at areas where its big size won't get caught up by obstacles. So this minigame can have multiple randomly generated lanes with randomly generated obstacles, which can vary in difficulty. So sometimes we'll just have a regular bowling lane, other times we can have ones with many clips and sharp turns, and so it's all physics-based and timing-based. Poo Ball Fight. So a clone of Snowball Summit from Mario Party 3, basically the whole reason I came up with this video in the first place. So once again, we're on top of the Pooh Mountain. We roll around giant balls of poo until all the players are knocked off. Last one standing wins. Bumper Barrels, a clone of Bumper Balls from Mario Party, but each character is riding on Mr. Barrel and his friends. Let's Go for a Ride, 4-player. Each character is on top of Mr. Barrel again as they steer for dear life as they head down an out-of-control ride through deadly narrow paths and obstacles. The first one to finish before the timer runs out wins. If a player crashes into something, they lose. How Cheesy, a 2 vs 2 game. Based on the mission from Conker where we had to fetch cheese from Marvin till he blew up. In this minigame, each player is assigned to one of Marvin's cousins on opposing sides of the cheese farm. One team member runs around to smack the cheese with their weapon, while the other picks up the cheese to bring back to the mouse. However, beware of the hopping blocks. The one who feeds their mouse the most before the timer runs out wins the game, and we're forced to watch the winning team witness their mouse blowing up in the process. Beat It, 2 vs 2. Tickly bees try infesting the home of the big-breasted sunflower and her equally big-breasted sister. One player on each team gets sprayed to gas out the bees, while the other gets an oversized fly swatter. The team to kill the most bees wins. Hay Fever, 4-player. Each player rides on Frankie and his pitchfork family members as we hop around destroying the most hopping hay monsters. But watch out, the Haybot will periodically appear to try stomping or swatting at us, along with firing Suzy 9mm homing missiles at us. Flash Flood, 4-player. Based on the escape sequence after beating the Haybot, this level has us racing to get out of a flooded barn before being electrocuted with loose wires. This minigame has us swimming, running, jumping, and climbing, ladders and ropes to escape. You can even attack other players and push them into the water, trying to leave them behind to get electrocuted. Barnstorm, 4-player. Each player skydives off of the giant high dive above the barn as they head towards the big barrel of water below. We steer our characters to avoid swarms of wasps and clouds full of lightning. The one who takes the least amount of damage before reaching the water wins. Son of a Bridge, 4-player. Each player runs and platforms across a rickety old broken bridge that keeps collapsing. The first one to cross the bridge wins. This one can have a third-person perspective as we see the characters running from behind from a semi-top-down view. Bullcrap, 4-player. Each player is trapped in Buggerlug's arena as the Mad Bull chases us and tries ramming us out of the game. Meanwhile, cows are constantly running across the arena with the screaming shits. Make sure to not get stuck in their cow pies. Last one standing before the time runs out wins. Bulldozer, 1 vs 3. One player gets to ride Buggerlugs as they try ramming the 3 evading opponents. Rhythm and Poos, 4-player. A rhythm minigame similar to Dance Dance Revolution, but with typical control inputs. So, set to the Great Mighty Poos song, the one with the highest score wins. Each character dances and tries dodging the Pooh's attacks to the rhythm. Each character gets their own unique animations and reactions. Hard Rock Rhythm, a clone of Rhythm and Pooh's, set to the music of Rock Solid. The levels music is unfortunately too long. I mean, who really wants to play an 11-minute long rhythm minigame? So it would likely have to be trimmed down to at least 3 to 6 minutes. This one would have more wacky and insane dance moves for each character. Docks of Death, 4-player. The dog shark breaks loose and chases the players across a collapsing dock. Unlike Son of a Bridge, this one can have more of a semi-side-scrolling perspective. First one to reach the end wins. Cogamani Contraption, 4-player. Based on the cog segment from Bat Tower, each player has to run across the wheel in circles to make their cog spin to start up a certain contraption. However, bats will keep swooping down from above to slow us down. The first one to power up their contraption wins. Throughout the minigame, we'll have many grouchy cogs in the background constantly telling us to F off. Boiling Bully, 1 versus 3. One player gets to go inside the big boiler and pilot him as we try stomping and burning the team of 3. Make sure the team of 3 don't get too close to us and smash our balls. Player 1 wins if they hit or burn all 3 players, where the 3-player team gets to win if one of them gets to smack the boiler's balls. If the timer runs out, it's a draw. On-Rail Slicer, 4-player. Based on the infamous scene after the Sopranos level, where Conker had to swim and avoid through getting sliced by giant metal propellers. In this auto-swimming level, we guide our characters up, down, left, and right, and in any direction, as we try to slip through the blades without getting sliced. Those who make it to the end win. Careful not to bump into any other players, though. Oh Raptor, 4-player. Each player rides a raptor. Whoever eats and kills the most cavemen in the arena wins. Watch out for Bug the Nut, who will occasionally drop down and create earthquakes with his ground pounds and bone club. Raving Raptor, 1 versus 3. Similar to Bulldozer, one player rides around on Fangy the Raptor and has to eat the other players or knock them into the lava. However, the team of 3 can pick up drop weapons, including spears and crossbows, to fight back. If Fangy loses all of his HP, player 1 loses. Now, I almost considered a minigame where we fight off hordes of zombie squirrels, but then I thought, honestly, this deserves to be just a zombie survival mode for the multiplayer mode. It honestly sounds more fitting for that than a minigame. So it would basically play like the firefight modes from the Halo games, where we fight off endless waves of enemies to see how long we can last. However, I did think of one minigame that could implement the zombies, that being a 2 versus 2 minigame called Key to Survival. Based on a huge chunk from the last bit of the horror chapter, where Conker needs to collect 3 keys to escape the zombie-infested mansion. In this minigame, one player has to grab a key and bring it back to the entrance, while player 2 has to protect the key bearer and use their shotgun to shoot off incoming zombies. The first team to reach the goal with the key escapes and wins. Bats Off, 1 versus 3. One player is transformed into a bat, just like how Conker was turned into a bat in the spooky chapter. The other 3 players will try hunting them down with crossbows. The bat cannot hurt the other players, but they can poop on them to stun them. If the bat avoids getting hit before the timer runs out, they win. Parachuter, 4-player. Everyone parachutes out of a plane. The goal is to steer around on your parachute to slowly avoid obstacles and shoot down oncoming paratroopers, not only including your competitors, but even oncoming Teddy NPCs. Five Nights at Teddy's, 4-player, a stealth-based minigame where we're locked inside a dark labyrinth crawling with deadly teddies. However, we are unarmed, and we have to sneak past the teddies and race out towards the exit before getting killed. Build a Teddy, 4-player, a roulette-based minigame where we're shown a picture of a teddy and we're forced to build a teddy, basically. The roulette changes between different parts of the teddy's face and body, and we have to land the roulette to match the teddy's correct eyes, nose, mouth, hat, and outfit. Whoever's teddy matches the closest to the picture wins, and the winner's teddy ends up coming to life and they kill the other competitors in the end. Teddy Tower, 1 versus 3. Similar to the beach mode from Bad Fur Day, one player gets to arm a turret on top of a tower to gun down the competition, while the team of 3 has to evade getting shot and infiltrate the tower to take out player 1. Step in Terror, 4-player. Each player has to cross a battlefield infested with buried explosive spider mines. Carefully tread the grounds and trust your controller's rumble to sense if you're getting too close to a mine. Whoever makes it out of the minefield first or is the last one standing is the winner. You Cheating Bastard, 4-player. Based on the cheat code menu from Conker's Bad Fur Day, we get to access the keyboard from the cheat menu as the Fire Imp gives us a big list of crude and funny cheat codes. Whoever types in the most correct cheat codes before the timer runs out is the winner. For fun, this minigame could also have a lot of funny visual gags, depending on the kind of cheats we type in, which can cause funny on-screen events to the surrounding characters, like parts of their bodies growing or shrinking, and their voices changing, etc. Hide and go heist, 1 versus 3. So another idea that would probably work better as a multiplayer mode instead of a minigame. So in this mode, player 1 is a guard at the Federal Reserve Bank. As a team of 3 infiltrate the bank with nothing but close combat daggers. The 3 have to sneak around through the bank's many rooms and vaults to bring back valuables and cash, while the armed guard has to chase them and gun them down. The game ends if all the bank's treasures are successfully brought to the escape point before the timer ends. The Heinrich Maneuver, 4-player. We're trapped in the vault as a ravenous Heinrich is on the loose. He keeps crawling in and out of vents and constantly tries to hunt down the other players. Make sure not to get bit by him, slashed by him, or skewered by his tail. So these are all the minigames that I could come up with. I mean, I'm sure I could sit down and think of more, but I feel like I've already been here long enough describing these minigames. But these were just a lot of the ideas that popped in my head. And so I hope you all had fun with that and would love to play these for yourself. So upon beating the final level in the story mode, our character confronts the devil and demands their wish be granted. But the devil refuses to hand it over, claiming he didn't expect anyone to actually win. He claims you'll have to beat him in a battle to get the wish out of him. So we then control our character in a death match against the devil. The devil will be a giant foe with many fire and pitchfork attacks. We'll have to jump and run to avoid his attacks while also dodging his army of fire imps. So we have to pick up weapons that spawn around to attack him and the fire imps. So upon defeating the devil, we get to see an alternate ending depending on which character you are playing as. So for Conker's story mode, this is how his ending would go. Upon defeating the devil begrudgingly accepts defeat and asks Conker what he wishes for. Conker says that he just wants to go home with Barry. As a portal opens up with Conker and Barry approaching it, Rodent then asks,
Wait, what about us, your majesty?
Conker then says,
You all can rot in hell for all I care.
Frankie the Pitchfork shouts, "What?" as the portal closes. And all the other players and NPCs just stand there in shock and confusion. We get a happier reprise of the ending to Conker's Bad Fur Day, with Conker happily sitting in his throne, with a second throne with Barry sitting next to him. Conker says,
Well, here we are, Conker and Barry, king and queen of all the land. Well, it took over 20 years, but I somehow did the impossible. I got a happy ending. Barry is back in my life, and I made it up to her for all the stupid mistakes I made. Admittedly, the kingdom is very empty with all my old subjects and servants trapped in hell, but to hell with them. I just have to ask myself, is this indeed the end of our story? Or will the developers pass this game off as a non-canon story? Oh, for the love of God, please let me have this one. With Barry by my side, our kingdom has been nothing but wild parties one after the other, and we intend to keep it that way. I still can't help but wonder if the devil or Greg will ever come back to try to get revenge on us. But if they do, bring it on. Our new and improved army will be ready.
Now, if Barry ended up winning and she got her wish, her ending would have her looking back and regretting a lot of life choices she made. She'll apologize and confess to Conker that she actually slept with other men and performed favors that she's not proud of. So Barry wishes for things to go back to the way they used to be, so she can have a chance to start over. However, her wish literally grants her what she asked for, as suddenly the game turns into the lower poly art style of 12 Tales Conker 64. Barry looks around in confusion, and she looks at her reflection in a lake and freaks out upon looking at her old beta design, being younger, having brown fur, and a plaid red skirt. Barry says, Wow, I wish for things to be like the good old days, but I didn't mean to go this far back. But hey, this is a chance for me to start all over, a chance to avoid all the poor life choices I've made. I can make a better woman out of myself. A younger and higher pitched Conker approaches her and says, Hey Barry, want to go and make some poor life choices? Barry responds, Okay, as the two run off. Now if Rodent wins, he'll wish to go back to serving King Conker for all eternity, and Conker screams, No! As the devil snaps his finger. We cut to many centuries into the future, and we see a miserably unhinged Conker, as he explains how there's no escape. He's resorted to even trying to kill himself to get out of this. He's even resorted to trying to kill Rodent, but it's no use. No matter what he does, they keep coming back. So, as Rodent does nothing but worships the ground that Conker walks on, and Conker is sick of it. So, yep, this would be a rather dark, morbid, but comical ending. If Marvin wins, he would stupidly just ask for a piece of cheese. and everyone lashes out at him, starts beating him up over wasting such a stupid wish. If the Panther King wins, everyone cowers in fear over what kind of terror a ruthless king like him could want. Ironically, the Panther King's wish is very innocent, as he just wishes to be the owner of the world's greatest dairy production factory. We see the Panther King successfully running the business and lounging in luxury inside of a pool made of milk. If Don Weasel wins, he wishes to be the king of the land back at the surface, and he expands his business and empire, only for the kingdom to revolt and overthrow him for a public execution. If the Teddy Soldier wins, he wishes for someone to love, and he gets a female Teddy Soldier to be his girlfriend, and the Professor gets outraged and angry at his own creation. Now, if the Professor wins, he'd have the most diabolical ending of all. He wishes to be the devil, as the devil loses his powers and becomes the Professor's slave. The Professor uses his powers to make himself new legs. He creates flames and starts throwing them at all the others as he laughs maniacally. It cuts to a few weeks later, and we see the Professor relaxing in a big comfy chair by a fireplace. We see the Panther King laying dead on the floor, similarly to a bearskin rug. We also see Conker and Barry were shrunk, and they're being kept as pets in a hamster cage. Also, the devil is forced to be the Professor's butler, while Greg is forced to be his maid. The Professor whistles as Heinrich comes in, running like a loyal pet dog, and the Professor asks Heinrich to fetch him today's news. So instead of a newspaper like you would expect, Heinrich comes back with the Professor's smartphone, as the Professor opens up a news app to read today's headline in Hell. It reads that Hell's production has been higher than ever before. There are less living beings roaming around on the surface world, along with the expansion of technology taking over Hell. The Professor maniacally laughs as we see Hell has been taken over with all these Teddy Soldiers. So yeah, this was a pretty big list of ideas, but I hope you all enjoyed it and love to see a game like this get made someday. Now, I don't expect a game like this to ever get made, but boy, would I love to see it happen. Video game announcements rarely excite me anymore. I feel like I just don't buy games as much as I used to, and that's because they don't make games like they used to. Too many video games nowadays lose my interest over the mentions of online requirements, DLC, or microtransactions, and dang it, I just want things to go back to the way they used to be. You look back at the number of games that released year after year back then, and it was a drastic improvement over today. There was so much variety. The N64 through the GameCube era was my most personal favorite, where year after year we got nothing but multiple exciting games, one after the other. Sometimes multiple great games in 1 year, in fact. I mean, 1 year we get Banjo-Kazooie, the following year we get DK64, the year after that we got Banjo-Tooie, and then the year after that we got Conker's Bad Fur Day, all from the same studio. Meanwhile, you look at like what's Rare been doing for the past few years. They've only had one game in the past few years, in nearly a decade, and that was Sea of Thieves. It's like, are you kidding me? That's all they're doing nowadays, just making yearly expansions to a game that's really gotten old. It's like, what the heck? What happened to them? I miss getting good streaks of new and exciting games year after year. Nowadays, it feels like you have to wait a decade for a new game to come out, and usually they pale in comparison to decade-old games that were packed with more content and charm. And they cost a lot less, too. What happened? Video games were the only happiness I had in life, and it saddens me to see how many games are just bastardized nowadays. Would anyone else love to see an adult version of Mario Party starring Conker? Are there any kinds of Mario Party clones you'd prefer to see with other franchises, or would you prefer another kind of spin-off starring Conker, or would you rather just get a plain sequel to Conker? Feel free to comment below and share your thoughts. I hope to make another episode in the series sometime. In the next episode, I hope to share my thoughts for a remade bundle of Banjo-Kazooie and Tooie that not only enhances and revises a lot of the game's mechanics, but it would also include a post-game mode that you get for completing both the remakes of Banjo-Kazooie and Tooie, allowing us to merge both games' save data to create a new game called Banjo-Kazooie, which allows us to travel between the worlds of both Banjo-Kazooie and Tooie. So in this mode, we can revisit the old worlds of Banjo-Kazooie while still having our moves from Banjo-Tooie, allowing us to unlock new challenges, bosses, and transformations in the old levels. Some of these new challenges will also trigger new events to occur in the worlds of Banjo-Tooie, allowing us to travel between all these different worlds from two games and expanding it into one new game. This game would not only be a great remake for fans of the first two games, but it would add a lot of post-game content that allows us to discover more new areas and missions that make it feel like an entirely new game, despite reusing the same worlds from the first two games. Now, obviously, an idea like this would be impossible to do with the original games, and that's why it would work if not only you remade Banjo-Kazooie and Tooie, but rebuilt them to where they would be compatible for this new mode. So even if you create a new save file that combines the save file of Banjo-Kazooie and Tooie, you can still go back and pick up jiggies that you may have forgotten to pick up during your first playthrough. Alongside that, you got a lot of new missions and areas to explore with your expanded arsenal of abilities that you didn't have in the first Banjo-Kazooie. And who knows, maybe there could even be some new moves you could learn that open up even further areas. And so yeah, I'd like to. I've already wasted a lot of time on this one video for Conker, so I'm gonna have to save this big idea for another one. But I hope you look forward to that, and thank you all so much for watching. See you next time, and have a great day.